Okay, welcome back to the second section of this new series. As I mentioned last time, we picked a really difficult topic which is very large, one that we're not going to encompass. Toward the end, I'm going to give you some marmakomos, some references toward other shiurim, other books you can look at on this. But just to remind myself and you about what we're talking about dealing with adversity, about dealing with the pain in our lives. And as we mentioned last time, everyone has pain. And pain is somewhat relative. The fact that someone else is suffering pain that's way beyond yours doesn't make that pain of yours less. And this brings about a variety of existential questions. Questions about why am I going through this? How am I functioning it with this? Where is Hashem? And I want to try, in order to get a pathway to some approaches to this huge topic, is to work with a letter that I found. When I was going through a very difficult time, I walked into a bookstore and I noticed a sefer that I hadn't seen before. It's the letters of the Nesiva Shalom, the previous Slonim Rabbi. Many people are familiar with his svarim on Machshava, Moadim, Chumash. This is letters that he wrote to people close to him. And I opened up and I found a letter that was entitled L'holech hashechim ve'ein nogalo, to a person who is walking in the darkness and has no light. And this was a letter he wrote to one of his Talmidim, Hasidim. Apparently he knew that he was going through difficult situations, but he describes in the beginning of the letter that just by observing him, he's able to see what he's going through in this world of pain. He says, without you having to say anything, he says, from the darkness that surrounds you, he says, I see that you hide the pain, your physical pain, your spiritual pain, even from close friends, because your pain is so great. And from despair and depression, you find no relief or purpose in speaking to people about it. The storm of the sound of your heart does break through, though, these metal barriers that you're broken in, and between the pained look of your eyes, I'm able to see what's happening inside of you. What I see is that you are suffering so terribly, physically and spiritually, and it looks almost as if that you're about to drown in quicksand. As David HaMelech describes in Tehillim, Tovati bi'vein metzula ve'ein ma'amad. It's a description David HaMelech gives of a person drowning in quicksand, really, this mud in which there's no place to put your feet. You can't get a hold. And he says, Chazal tell us standing, right? David HaMelech said, Ein ma'amad, there's no ability to stand. Chazal said, Ein amido ela tefillah. Standing is tefillah. Says, I can tell that because of the situation you're going through, you can't daven. You're losing slowly and slowly your ability to fight. You're losing your ability to control your thoughts. And the Sitra Achra, that opposing force, eventually starts to take over. And therefore, he says, even though I respect your privacy, I have to reach out to you and say what I can, hoping that this can somehow affect you. He says, a person in your situation loses his ability to daven, even though I see you coming to davening, he says, and saying the words, but it's like you're stone. There's no emotion. When you stand before Hashem, it seems to you that you're telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you've broken me physically, spiritually, you've put me in darkness, you've hidden your face from me, and all of your midos, all of your attributes that are rachamim, my heart, which is closed in the state that I'm in, feels simply cruelty. And your one request is, don't throw me away. As David HaMelech said, Al tashlicheni milfonecha, and at least ruach kodshecha al tikach mimeni. Don't take away everything that I stopped feeling as a Jew because of this situation that I'm in. This is what the Rebbe sensed in looking at his chassid coming, trying to go through the day-to-day motions of keeping halacha, of going to davening in the terrible situations he's going through. This is something that everyone faces in one way or another, and he's going to go into this a bit more. He says you should know that when a person is tested, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides to test a person, we're tested, so to speak, in our most basic, stripped-down identity. Knowledge that we learned in Torah cannot help us. Even the emunah that we've inherited from the generations before us is not there. A person is hidden. A person doesn't feel Hashem in his presence. He feels, right, and again in the words of David HaMelech, Nistar adarki me Hashem. My way is hidden from Hashem. You can't daven, and a person feels broken, feels he has no connection to this world and no connection to the next world. And here he comes with an explanation of what we say in Kriya Shema. In Kriya Shema we say, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha, b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha. B'chol nafshecha is explained as V'afilu notel es nafshecha. Even if he takes, the most common translation is your life. There are certain times in which a Jew has to give up his life. But here he's explaining it differently. To try to reach for the mitzvah of Avas Hashem, even if he took your nefesh, meaning you don't feel your soul. Nefesh, right, Sfarim point out, when Avram Avinu approached Bnei Ches, he said, V'imes nafshechem, meaning, Rashi says, if you want. Nefesh is the ratzon. Afilu notel as nafshecha, Hashem took your ratzon. You don't want anything anymore. You don't feel anything anymore. To try to reach the level of Ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, that is the hardest test of all. The process of getting out of this, he says, is described in the Torah. In Vayikra, there's a parsha that begins with Chiyamucha Chicha, when your friend, your brother, loses his financial status, and it describes the disintegration of a person's life. His finances fall apart. He has to sell himself into servitude until he sells himself into servitude to Avodah Zarah. And then the Torah says, O dodo o ben dodo yigalenu. Dod is a relative, but the word dod also means beloved, a friend. A friend has to reach out and try to help you. Stretch out a hand to try to help you see things differently, because when a person is locked into their situation, they can't see things any differently. This, said the Rabbi, is why I'm approaching you here. I'm trying to be that friend who comes from the outside because you're in a cycle of despair that seems to have no out. And hopefully with my words, he says, I can help you find the way to a better place.